What you're about to see is a compelling revelation. For the first time, a glossary of those individuals and organizations who are witting or unwitting participants in the global Khalistani web. We are calling them the Firangistani files. We have compiled this data after a painstaking effort of analyzing publicly available resources over several weeks. This has been done for a broader understanding of the linkages and the webs that keeps pro-Khalistani network active globally. The objective has been to understand what all organizations and which all individuals have unwittingly or wittingly legitimized or gravitated towards this. Some of the people profiled are notorious with criminal allegations against them. Some are operating fronts directly inimical to the security and the integrity of India as a sovereign nation. Some others may well be individuals and organizations who are participants in the web who may otherwise have no criminal intent. These individuals and organizations claim that they are exercising their right of free speech. We in turn are exercising the same right of free speech and journalistic enterprise so that their role, both inadvertent or malified, can be better understood in public interest. This is a global battle of information and misinformation. Knowledge and transparency is required urgently. We hope that all those committed to the Sikh cause who are ardent Indian patriots or believers in the integrity of India are better in part knowing who is doing what as per publicly taken positions and opinions. We are making no criminal allegations in this story other than those already made by the authorities in the public domain or published elsewhere. We know that the people who are waging this war against India and their sympathizers will dislike being called out in such a comprehensive manner. That's exactly why we are doing this. Now you'll know who is fueling the Khalistani web. Let's get started. I get in my colleague Aarti to take us through this entangled web of the Khalistani sympathizers, the organizations, the foundations, the people who have been involved for decades together to bring a bad name to India for this secessionist movement that they call Khalistan.
Right. Thank you, Megha. What I have with me is this document that we've put together at this point. What we have, you see, this is the network that we've put together. It's not complete. It is in fact just the basic and the outline, but this itself is quite extensive. If we take a look at it, it goes from the lens of Pakistan to Canada, the UK, America, and it just goes all over. Now we're calling this the sympathizer network because not all of them are openly Khalistani, but they do in fact follow each other on social media. Now how have we put this together? We put it together by ensuring the fact that there is publicly available proof and information on their websites, on their social media, that they are aligning themselves with the Khalistan ideal, or if they are aligning themselves with people who are Khalistani. They also follow each other on social media, so this has been put together based on social media activity as well. Let's get started with how this web looks like. Let's try to entangle it, like you said. Firstly, Dal Khalsa, if we're starting from the center, right? Pro-Khalistan organization which is based in London, United Kingdom, okay? How many people follow Dal Khalsa? Dal Khalsa. Now if you see, this is perhaps the center of the web in what we've designed here. We're saying Sikh Siyasat News, which is supposed to be a pro-Khalistan media organization, again follows Dal Khalsa. Dal Khalsa follows this as well. Now the same pattern also goes around for World Sikh Organization, whose president is Tejendra Singh Sidhu, and that's how this goes on to connect him with several other people. Now the World Sikh Organization follows Jagjit Singh, who's a pro-Khalistan journalist who's based in New York, and he's working for a UK based organization. Now again, he follows Dal Khalsa, Dal Khalsa follows him, Dal Khalsa follows the World Sikh Organization. World Sikh Organization, of course, the president is Tejendra Singh Sidhu. World Sikh Organization follows Jagjit Singh, and Jagjit Singh follows World Sikh Organization. So this is the first part of the web. Now if we come to this part of the web over here, we're seeing that Dal Khalsa follows Sikh Siyasat News, which claims to be a media organization but posts a lot of pro-Khalistan propaganda. Now, Sikh Siyasat News follows Preet Kaur Gill, who is UK Member of Parliament. Now, interesting to note, there are a lot of members of Parliament and people who are higher up in the chain as well when it comes to chain of command in politics, who are then also following these organizations which are openly Khalistani. Now again, Sikh Siyasat News follows Preet Kaur Gill. Preet Kaur Gill follows Dal Khalsa, and Dal Khalsa follows Preet Kaur Gill. Now this is an important connection that we've made here. Then again comes Amar Shergill, again from pro-Khalistan supporter, member of California Democratic Party. Again, politician, follows Preet Kaur Gill. Preet Kaur Gill follows him back. Now, we're talking about where does this connect her with several other people and other people who are openly Khalistani as well. She follows Tanmanjeet Singh Desi, again UK Member of Parliament, openly Khalistani, follows known Khalistani sympathizer in Canada, Gurpreet Sahota. Now, Gurpreet also follows him back. He follows, again, if we go back to the part of the web we were talking about earlier, Gurpreet Sahota follows Sikh Siyasat News. Sikh Siyasat News follows him back as well. Now we're talking about again Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal, who's a member of Parliament in Canada, follows Gurpreet Sahota and he follows him back. Now this is another connection. If you take a look at the web again, you're seeing the connection of people who are part of Parliament, who are part of government in various countries. Again, Canada linked to the UK, linked to America. This is again Amar Shergill, followed by Preet Kaur Gill, followed by Tanman Singh Desi, then again followed by Gurpreet Sahota, then again followed by Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal, right? Now, let's take a look at this side of the web. If we're talking about the Sikh Renaissance, it calls itself the Sikh Renaissance. It's a Canada-based non-profit, in its words, working in India and in Nepal. Now, they have their bases in India and Nepal. They call themselves a non-profit, but they are pro-Khalistani. Now, they follow Dal Khalsa, which is, of course, like I mentioned, a pro-Khalistan organization. Then, if we're talking about Gurpreet Sahota and his following of Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal. Now, we're not making allegations that just because they follow each other on social media, they do support maybe the bombings or the other attacks on the Indian High Commission that happened in London. But what they are doing is definitely enabling the pro-Khalistan views that are being shared by all these people that they follow. They on time and again retweet and do share the views that have been shared by all of them. Now we're coming again to Gurpreet Singh Anand, who's a known Khalistani sympathizer in London, again followed by Preet Kaur Gill and follows him back. Then that connects him to Khalistani sympathizer in Canada, Shamandeep Singh. Again, now if we look at all these people, they don't operate in silos. That's what we're trying to show you through this network, right? They don't operate alone. Now, if you take a look at Shamandeep Singh, he is the CFO and founder of SAF International. What is SAF International? It's a Canada-based non-profit that's working in India and Nepal, like I had mentioned earlier, and it follows Dal Khalsa. The same goes for then the Khalistan Liberation Force, right? Again, follows Dal Khalsa follows it back. Same here. And then Shamandeep Singh is the founder and co-founder of CFO and co-founder of SAF International. Then he's followed by Gurpreet Singh Anand followed by Preet Kaur Gill. Preet Kaur Gill then again followed by several other Khalistan organizations like the United Sikhs, again, which is a pro-Khalistan media organization as it calls itself, follows Preet Kaur Gill. Then if we take a look at this half of the web, which shows you the link to ISI as well. Now we're talking about, say, Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal, right, Member of Parliament in Canada. How is he linked to Mo Dhaliwal in Canada? Now, there have been several pictures that have been posted online by Mo Dhaliwal himself. These are pictures of him with Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal. Now, let's take a look at how the Poetic Justice Foundation, which is founded by Mo Dhaliwal, is then connected to the rest of the Khalistan web, right? Now, Ramneek Johal is a reporter with Press Progress. She's a pro-Khalistan supporter. She's openly pro-Khalistani. Now, she follows Gurpreet Singh Tohar, who's a councillor in Brampton, Canada. Again, another politician. He follows her back, and he also follows Tejinder Singh Sidhu, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the president of the World Sikh Organization, again, follows Dal Khalsa. Now, Tejinder Singh Sidhu follows Gurpreet Singh Tohar, who follows Ramneek Johal. Now, Ramneek also follows the United Sikhs, and she also follows Gurpreet Sahota. Now, United Sikhs also follows Gurpreet Sahota. Gurpreet Sahota also follows Sikh Siyasat News. Now, Ramneek follows the Dal Khalsa as well. Now, Ramneek is then how she linked here. She follows the Poetic Justice Foundation. The Poetic Justice Foundation is co-founded by Mo Dhaliwal here, who is self-confessed Khalistan supporter. He has put out statements many times earlier talking about his alignment with Khalistan. Now, Ramneek retweets several of Mo Dhaliwal's tweets and also shares several of his posts on other social media platforms. Now, the Poetic Justice Foundation then shares, now it is of course under investigation for sharing the toolkit which came out during the farmers' protest in India. Now, Rana Ayub, who is an Indian journalist, has time and again shared posts or shared social media statements that have been put out by Poetic Justice Foundation, which is of course owned by pro-Khalistani Mo Dhaliwal. Rana Ayub has reshared several of these posts. Now, she's also, the Poetic Justice Foundation does also follow Rana Ayub. Now, she has also shared articles that have been posted by OFMI, which is the Organization for Minorities of India. Now, what is OFMI? Who owns it? Let's take a look at that. But before that, Rana Ayub, here you see a picture of a tweet where you're seeing that this is an article that has been written by OFMI, and she shared it on her Twitter. This is a screenshot of that particular tweet. Now, she does share several articles of the OFMI. Now, why is that important? How does it tie her to the web? How does it tie Poetic Justice Foundation then to OFMI? We'll take a look at that. Now, OFMI is allegedly funded by Pakistan, and it is allegedly funded to launch an information war against India. Now, we'll understand more about it through the course of the next 2 hours when we discuss each of these key players in this web. But firstly, the OFMI's board member is Peter Frederick. Now, who is Peter Frederick? He was first on the Delhi police radar for links with Pakistani ISI, and he of course is also being investigated for the toolkit controversy. Now, he's also been allegedly recruited by Bhajan Singh Binder, who is supposed to be of course the founder of OFMI and alleged Khalistan supporter and also an ISI operative, allegedly, according to reports. Now, Bhajan Singh Binder of course is the founder of OFMI, like I said, and the OFMI follows only 2 accounts on their social media. One, its founder Bhajan Singh Binder, and secondly, Indian American Muslim Council, which is again allegedly spreading Hinduphobia, and also spreads a lot of hate against India. Now, then how does this tie them to the toolkit controversy per se? Now, Peter Frederick's name had appeared in the toolkit controversy. We'll go into detail about that, but this is just to explain to you how that ties them to the Poetic Justice Foundation. Now, the Poetic Justice Foundation was the one that put out the toolkit per se during the time of the farmers' protest, and Mo Dhaliwal had in fact tagged Rihanna in a tweet, and this particular toolkit was shared by Rihanna and Greta Thunberg. Now, this toolkit mentioned the name of Peter Frederick as one of the accounts that needed to be followed on social media, and also as one of the authors of the toolkit, which openly had several links to Khalistan articles. Now, this is how the Pakistan ISI, this is one part in fact of how the Pakistan ISI and Poetic Justice Foundation was linked to the farmers' protest and the Khalistan ideal. Now, let's take a look at the other half of this network that explains to us the second half of how Pakistan is perhaps linked to the Khalistan movement per se. Now here we are taking a look at Guru Charan Singh, right? Again, Dal Khalsa, if we come back to the center, Dal Khalsa. Major member of the Dal Khalsa is Guru Charan Singh. Now he is again openly Khalistan sympathizer. Now on social media you can find several videos of Guru Charan Singh. In fact, the NIA had just released 3 CCTV footages of the attack on the Indian High Commission in London, where you can see Guru Charan's face in several of the CCTV visuals. And he was in fact one of the first people to have been identified when it came to the people who were involved in the attack in London. Now he of course has been seen together with Paramjit Singh Pamma, who is a wanted Khalistani sympathizer and a member of the Khalistan Tiger Force, which is a known terror organization. Now he is of course has been put on the wanted list of India. Now how is he again tied to Pakistan? He has been seen together with Tehreek-e-Kashmir leader, who is originally from Pakistan, Fahim Kayani. This is the picture of them together. This is Guru Charan Singh with Fahim Kayani, who is of course a Tehreek-e-Kashmir leader, and he is originally of course from Pakistan. He's also been spotted with several Pakistani diplomats. Here's again a picture of Guru Charan here with Pakistani diplomats. Pakistan High Commissioner had invited Sikhs to a Kashmir human rights event, is what the Dal Khalsa's post read, while this image was shared alongside that. Now, how else is he connected to the protest? Now, you can see, of course, this is an image of Guru Charan threatening an Indian man. Now, this Indian man is reportedly from Gujarat, who had gone to ask why the people over there were protesting, and you can see this is Guru Charan threatening him. This is in fact a very powerful image that we had gotten from that protest, which explains how he was linked to the protest. Now, how is he linked to other Khalistanis? If you talk about the other people who protested or participated in the attack on the Indian High Commission, that brings us to Avtar Singh Khanda. Now, he is the man who had pulled down the Indian flag at the High Commission in London. Now, he was also in the news recently because he had passed away of what some people say was a blood cancer. But of course, this person here who's pulling down the Indian flag here, a clear view of the image. This is Avtar Singh Khanda, and this is the image of him pulling down the Indian flag at the Indian High Commission. Now that is how Guru Charan is linked with Avtar Singh Khanda, because they participated together when it came to the attack on the London High Commission. Who is Avtar Singh Khanda then? He is the chief of the KLF, the Khalistan Liberation Force. Like I had mentioned earlier when we started discussing the web, we spoke about the Dal Khalsa. Now the Dal Khalsa is being followed by the Khalistan Liberation Force, and it follows it back. Of course, several of these Twitter accounts, I would like to remind you, are not available now in India. Because they have been banned in India, as the government has been taking action and cracking down on several of these pro-Khalistani Twitter accounts. But there are still some low-key Twitter accounts that are still functioning. Now, this of course Khalistan Liberation Force, Khalistani separatist terrorist organization. The chief of the KLF is Avtar Singh Khanda. He's of course now passed away. He was a wanted pro-Khalistani sympathizer in fact. Now, how is he linked to India then? He's linked through Amritpal Singh. Now, Amritpal Singh of course was in the news as the founder of Waris Punjab. They recently arrested. Now, Khanda had allegedly nurtured Amritpal and acted as his handler, is what reports say. And of course, how does this link Avtar Singh Khanda, and not only Avtar Singh Khanda, but several Khalistanis with people who are in Punjab or people who are artists and musicians. This is Gippy Grewal, right, a Punjabi musician. Now you can see this is supposed to be Khanda's Twitter account, which was later taken down. Gippy Grewal again using hashtags and tagging Khalsa Aid, which is another well-known pro-Khalistani organization. You're seeing that he's retweeted an image that has been shared by Gippy Grewal. Here you're seeing Avtar Singh Khanda with Gippy Grewal. Now this is how he is linked to Gippy Grewal. Now, who else is Gippy Grewal linked to? He follows Preet Kaur Gill. Now remember viewers, earlier we'd spoken about Preet Kaur Gill, who several of the Khalistani politicians follow, a well-followed figure in terms of the Khalistan circle, you might say. Now Gippy Grewal also follows Preet Kaur Gill, who again brings us back to the extensive web of Khalistanis from around the world, right from Pakistan, UK, Canada and the US.
All right. So that was an exhaustive, detailed flowchart that we were able to formulate after a detailed study that we made for almost 2 months. We have been able to track every single one of these foundations and organizations, politicians, activists and so on and so forth. We are at this point of time at the juncture of taking a look at why there have been these Twitter followings that have happened. Why is it that on social media these people are so active? These people continue to retweet and put out tweets which are detrimental to the cause, to the sovereignty, to the integrity of our country. I'm going to start off, and these, in fact, visuals on your screens, these give you a detailed analysis of the individuals who have been actively involved in a number of attacks, whether it is the Indian High Commission, whether it is for Sikhs for Justice referendum that has taken place several times in different parts of the world. We will give you a point-by-point analysis as this telecast goes on. Remember, this is a 2-hour marathon telecast that we are doing and giving you maximum information with the huge, massive amount of research that we've been able to conduct. I'm going to start off my conversation with Professor Madan Nalapad. I'll start with you, and it's interesting to note that if we put a little mind to it and time and energy to find out these links, how is this individual involved, how is Dal Khalsa involved, where did it come into being, how did it come into being, Poetic Justice Foundation, we have Tejinder Singh Sidhu, we have Gurcharan Singh. These if you join the dots, you can entangle everything that has been happening, which is detrimental to the integrity of our country.
Look, the fact of the matter is that yes, there is a complex network, and yes, I think that has been very carefully laid out in your expose. There are 2 points here. First is external. You have a large number of people across the world who are not really cognizant of the situation in India. So essentially, they have a vacuum in their minds when they talk about India, so issues in India. And the idea is to fill that vacuum with false information about India, false information about themselves, so that that particular vacuum gets filled and genuine information no longer has a way of coming in. That is the external factor behind. The internal factor, of course, is to try and make people, bring individuals to have a mistrust and disloyalty for their own country. Now, fortunately, that has not worked at all. And if I may say so, the Sikh community is among the most noble communities ever, not only in India, but across the world. They're exceptionally hardworking people. They have excelled in different fields of life. And I'd only like to say that this, frankly, these entire web of organizations is in a sense a libel on the Sikh community.
Okay.
Because it's using the name of the Sikh community to propagate on behalf of precisely those individuals who committed genocide of the Sikh community back in the 1940s and early 1950s.
Okay. I'm going to quickly get in Sara L. Gates. She is an expert on Khalistan extremism and Hindu phobia. Now Sara, having taken a look at this exhaustive report that has come out, we have built it from the scratch, and with our center point being Dal Khalsa. Now, how have you also made certain inferences, certain references while doing your study on this Khalistani extremism that happens?
Yes, well, of course, those networks are operating here in Australia as well, and they've been quite active since the farm protests. At the farm protest time, there were some riots. Some people call it unrest, but they call it Harris Park brawls. And at the time, the the movement was disguising itself as a farm protest movement with no alignment to Khalistan. So they denied that they had anything to do with the Khalistan movement, but of course they were chanting Khalistan slogans, and they used that as a means to attack the Hindu community through the press and accuse them of being Sikh phobic and attacking Sikhs. But we know that's not the case. And as things have progressed here in Australia, we've been able to identify members of networks, and they're all very densely connected, as you've pointed out here, with those networks overseas. So it's all one big global movement. And as the Network Contagion Institute has pointed out in a very detailed study about social media and the role of social media in inciting violence, social media activity between these very densely connected individuals and organisations has led to real-world violence on our streets.
Right.
It's done it here, the UK, Canada, India. Where does it stop? It's in Europe, Italy. I don't know where it ends. I mean, the government, everybody has the information that they need. If we can trace this down, and like Jai Bharadwaj has done here in Australia, if we can track these criminals here, my concern is what are the police doing and why aren't they acting? Because we all know what's going on.
Absolutely. You make those very strong observations. You know, I have with me Jitarth Bharadwaj. He's the editor of the Australia Today. Now, Jitarth, as Sarah said, you know, the web that we have been able to entangle, it reaches from, we start off with Canada, and it reaches UK, and it is in Australia and UK and United States of America. But what Sarah tells us is that you know, the Khalistani tentacles are deep rooted, and they've also traveled to other parts of Europe, including in Italy, in Spain, and some others. Now, are there investigative agencies in different parts of the world who are devoted to the cause of finding out what these terrorist activities or these terrorist organizations are up to? Or are they at this point in time lethargic, really not caring what's happening, ignoring things as was witnessed in I don't know, in UK when the Khalistani attack happened at the Indian High Commission? There was not a peep that was made by the Metropolitan Police.
See, one thing we must understand that as of now, be it Canada, be it UK or Australia or New Zealand or US, they think that Khalistan problem is not their problem. It's an ethnic issue which Indian community can sort it within themselves. Their agencies are not, I should say, bothered even to look into the matters of Khalistan. It's just in last year and a half that Indian government has pursued these issues with particularly UK, Australia and Canada, so that we are hearing in media and otherwise also. Let me tell you how the network works. The fantastic graphics which you put there, connecting the dots between UK and Canada groups of Khalistan. The same is happening in terms of Europe. Italy is one of the most important part which is acting there. Italian group of Khalistan supporters are the one who are primarily funding the issue in the smaller parts. Now, when we were tracing the money trail within the Khalistan groups, the money was not coming from the Canadian groups. They are making these Italian groups to divert money sources to wherever is needed, be it in Australia, be it some of the things happening in New Zealand and other parts of the world. So we could understand that European groups are the one which are transferring large amount of sums to different parts. How they are doing it? Now they are mimicking the in Western world, the religious institutions can have free flow of money. So the Dal Khalsa setup which you showed in terms of UK, they are mimicking it in Australia, New Zealand and other parts. In Australia, we have had 2 gurdwaras in last 7 months, which have received to the tune of $1.5 million to establish this Dal Khalsa gurdwaras for Khalistan activities. So these are the methodologies. There is a Khalsa Aid. They have created Australia chapter of Khalsa Aids. They have created state heads of Khalsa Aids so that they can mobilize, and because of their charity, so the flow of money and other influence is very easy. So you have shown the politicians in UK who are supporting Khalsa institutions. In Australia, there are institutions which are NGOs or charity organizations who have committed their, I have accessed their documentation which they have put in terms of their constitution and all that. They say that their motive is to gather political support to establish their own people into political system, be it the council level, be it the state government level, or the federal level, so that they have influence. Till the time you don't get that influence, what they are doing is they are supporting the smaller parties with money and muscle. Every politician needs money to fight the election and manpower to go to the election. That's what they are doing.
Okay.
And for the social structure, understand the social structure. They have started creating small charities which give free food to in the cities or homeless people, so that they create their social capital also in these countries.
Yeah.
That way, whenever they go out with the open source, which you have seen in Melbourne and Sydney, people say, oh, they are very peaceful, nice people, but this is not expected. Something else is happening within the ethnic communities.
Interesting. That's an interesting perspective that you put. Also, I'm also being joined by, do we have Sonam Mahajan as well, expert on human security and Khalistani extremism? Okay. Professor Nalapat, I'll come back to you. Now this intrinsic web that has been woven by these Khalistanis, and it's not just limited to Canada or UK or America or Australia now, but as our other panelists said that, you know, in Italy, in other European nations and in Syria, all these linkages have been drawn. And do you find it surprising, appalling, that there are politicians and renowned, celebrated ones at that, who have these direct linkages, but there have been no investigations that have been started against them? Why is it that there have been efforts that have been made by the National Investigation Agency to visit Canada to initiate certain raids, bring down certain people who are associated with the Khalistani extremist organizations, but when will be the time of the day when these politicians who are directly, clearly associated with the Khalistani extremists are going to be pulled down?
Well, the first point is very simple, and that is that a lot of effort needs to be put by Australia, by Canada, by the UK, by the US, by India, to track the actual sources of this funding. Our guest has very correctly said that a lot of it is coming from Italian and other sources. Now track their funding. Where do they get the money from? You will find a significant portion of that money is coming from a particular country that is now the second superpower of the world, a very large economy, just below the United States, and which frankly is hostile to the very idea of democracy. A lot of money is coming from the narcotics trade. The narcotics trade is a lucrative trade. They generate a tremendous amount of cash. Some of that cash is recycled through banks, and then is recycled to various institutions. So I think it's very important to track the money of all these institutions. And once you do that, once you identify the source of the funding, you will identify the roots of this kind of network. The second point is, again, it makes me feel a sense of deja vu. I was in New York on the day of the 9/11 attack, and I visited the United States several times during that particular year. And I can say that all these institutions that were involved in these hijackers, in the kind of training, in the extremist thing, all of them were using the religious tag. All of them were using the charity track. They were all saying they were charities. They were all saying they were religious institutions. There were different foundations, foundations named after some of the most sacred sites in the world for certain religions, misnamed, if I may say so. Just as, for example, the word Sikh, such a noble name, a name that stands for courage, for valor, for justice, is being misused by so many institutions that have really nothing to do with courage, valor, or justice. So what we are seeing is a repeat of the kind of, if I may say so, just not really looking beneath the surface. On the surface, yes, they're religious, they're charitable. What is going on beneath the surface? No one is really looking into that. And I think it's important for Western agencies in particular to look into that, because the reality is that essentially the ideology of this particular, which I call the Sino-Wahhabi alliance, is intrinsically anti-Western, as much if not more anti-Western than it is anti-Indian. And therefore I think it's very important that the mistake made up to 9/11 of not looking to any of this seriously, Bill Clinton completely ignored all these things. He allowed all these poisonous weeds to grow without bothering about any of them. And that same mistake, I'm sorry to say, is being repeated now in several of our democratic partners.
Okay. So, Sarah, I'm going to come back to you. Now that you've been able to gather so much information, there's so much research, there's so much data in the open as well on social media and otherwise, should there be a concerted effort for each of the governments and their police systems to investigate into the matter, find out, get into the root of the matter and arrest the people who are starting off this secessionist movement against India? This is, at the end of the day, an attack on the sovereignty of our country, and the countries who support this are actually the enemies of the country as well.
Well, you're right about that. Unfortunately, there has been involvement with these movements and the Pakistan embassy. So we've seen the Kashmir separatist movement and this farmers' protest movement rise up at the same time, pretty much here in Australia. And those activists are highly connected to the Greens Party, who have been receiving awards from at the Pakistan High Commission here. So it is connected and bolstered and sponsored perhaps by Pakistan, and it's a problem because we noticed during this period of the temple attacks and the police responses to them, and police responses to, graffiti attacks, use of slogans, hateful slogans, and the authorities pulling those banners down that were put up all over our cities, that there was a resentment building against the state. And if the authorities are clever, they will have checked that Khalistanis tend to attack the state. And if you upset them, they will come after you. And they did go after our prime ministers, both of them, labelling them Hindutva stooges. So it's only like a very short tether until they break loose and turn against our own government, because they are anti-establishment by nature. So it is a risk, and I think that when they recognise how big that risk is, threatening dignitaries at G20, for example, threatening dignitaries at the Quad, these are big problems. And if you've got the same people threatening to derail trains, we've just seen what happened in India, and the devastation that can cause. These are very violent, minded people. They're very dangerous people, and that threat needs to be taken very seriously. So
Absolutely.
The government are looking into it. They are taking it seriously, but perhaps not as seriously as we would like them to.
Yeah. I think you make all the valid points. I'm going to quickly get in Aarti back on the telecast with us. And Aarti, the focal point of creating and establishing the associations, organizations, people who were linked to Dal Khalsa is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
If you could shed more light into this Dal Khalsa, when was it founded? What was the reason for it being founded? Who are these prominent members, part of the Dal Khalsa group?
Right, initially we started the web off with Dal Khalsa, right. The Dal Khalsa is a Khalistani organization that was formed in 1978 under the inspiration of Bhindranwale. It was hoisted the Khalistani flag for the first time in 1980. Now if we talk about their alleged terror CV or the charges against them, they were involved in the 1981 hijacking of an Indian Airlines jetliner that they forced the plane to land in Lahore in Pakistan and demanded the release of Sant Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. Now, who are the people that are involved with this? This is the hijackers were under the leadership of Gajinder Singh. Gajinder Singh was a few years later became the chairman of the Dal Khalsa. Now, there was a 10-year ban that was put on the Dal Khalsa by the Indian government in 1982 after the hijacking. Now, the main office of Dal Khalsa is presently in Amritsar at Freedom House, supposedly in the Sarhadi complex on Railway Road. But they established units in the United States and they call themselves Dal Khalsa UK. Now, when it comes to other involvement, in May 2002, the Vice President of Dal Khalsa, Jaspal Singh Dhillon, had paid a visit to London as well, and he was invited to the Parliament. Now, he was invited to deliver a speech on self-determination for Khalistan and the British at the British Parliament. If we talk about recent events, in 2003, of course, earlier we had seen the attack that happened on the 9th of March on the Indian High Commission in London. This is Gurucharan Singh that we discussed earlier. He is a Dal Khalsa attacker or protester at the High Commission of India in London, and he delivered a speech against Bhagat Singh and Mahatma Gandhi as well. Here you can see images of him from the protest in London. Now, if we talk about Gurucharan specifically, he is an active member of Dal Khalsa, of course, and he was seen as a designated Khalistani terrorist. He's been listed and he's been seen with Khalistan Tiger Force Paramjit Singh Pama, as I mentioned earlier as well. This is an image of them together. He's also been seen with Fahim Khayani, who is a Tehreek Kashmir leader. So he has Pakistan ISI links as well. Like I showed you earlier, he is then seen with Pakistani diplomats and he had discussed Kashmir. These again are images of him from the protest. He's been seen talking against Bhagat Singh and then again threatening a Gujarati man at the protests that they were at, and he's also been caught on camera openly talking about the fact that China, Pakistan and Maoists had funded several Khalistani groups.
Okay, interesting facts over here. I'm going to quickly get my third panelist Jitarth on the telecast on the right now. Jitarth, so we take a look at the terror CV of Dal Khalsa, and up until very recently, Dal Khalsa was out of the picture. I think the maximum number of times that we were talking about the Khalistanis, we would rake up the Sikhs for Justice group, which has been coming out with referendums after referendums, and I think Gurpatwant Singh Pannu was amongst the big terrorists that was highlighted, that was wanted, India's top 100 wanted list and so on and so forth. But since the London High Commission attack, Dal Khalsa's name has yet again been spoken and talked about and discussed a lot. But here is to the fact that in 1981 there was a plane that was hijacked. It was forced to the plane was forced to land in Lahore, and the Dal Khalsa group demanded the release of Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale. So the history of Dal Khalsa goes really back in the 1980s.
That's true. See, there are gangs among the gangs. So when you start seeing the Khalistan web, there are a number of players, number of institutions who are fighting for the bigger pie of whatever you want to call it, in terms of influence, in terms of money structure, whatever you want to call it, they are fighting for that pie. If you talk about Australia, the whole 2020 Khalistan referendum movement was created by 3 organizations, and Dal Khalsa had kind of less to do about that. Dal Khalsa was the hot-headed people who believed to do action on ground. That is how they were. And in a current situation, Sikhs for Justice is creating whatever a Khalistan referendum, a democratic way of doing things. We want to use the democracy. We want to use the institutions of Western democracy. That's what the front is. Now, when they organize all these propaganda events, Dal Khalsa and its goons, they come in the picture to terrorize, threaten, and even sometimes use their knives and swords on Indian, Australian, for Australia, Indian Americans, Indian Canadians, and Indians in UK also. That's how their modus operandi works. These people are always ready to fight. They have created two ways. You showed the picture of Gippy Grewal. He is incidentally right now in Australia. So what they do is through these music and artistic exchange or small film making or video making, they churn money from different countries, from India, Australia, wherever they want to. And there is another aspect of this, kabaddi shows. So they organize kabaddi tournaments to create a large group of muscle power on the local grounds. These are heavy mans. You and I can't fight with them.
Right.
They go
Right.
10, 15 people go
Jithat, stay on with me. You know, I'll come back to you. You've raised an important point. You know, I'm also being joined by Sonam Mahajan. Let us get her also into the conversation. Now, Sonam Mahajan is an expert on human security and Khalistani extremism. Now, Sonam, you witnessed this heavy researched program that we are doing on the Khalistanis and how their terror linkages have spread across the length and breadth of this world. And we are specifically talking about how the governments of the day need to take action but are not doing so. How has your experience been in studying these terrorist groups, organizations, and if there can be a CV that can be presented to the governments of the day, whether in America or Australia or Canada or Syria or wherever these activities are prevalent, so as to ensure that governments and their police forces take action on them?
Yes. I think before we go on giving suggestions to the foreign regimes or the governments, we also need to do some homework. At the very outset, I want to say this, that the demand for Khalistan was first made back in the 1940s, during the British rule. It became dormant after some time because during the partition, the Hindus and Sikhs got united like never before. Whatever grievances one had for another, I mean, they were all sorted, and the partition united the Hindus and Sikhs again. Then for a long time, we did not see any trouble. But after the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, the Pakistanis decided to wage a two-front war against India. They wanted to bleed India with 1,000 cuts, and it's spoken about very openly. At times, it gives me a brain freeze when I see people in India saying, "Okay, this has suddenly started. It's just the Pakistanis who are doing everything." It's an open secret. They are the ones who started this. But then there's a lot of homework
I'm sorry, Sonam. I'll have to interrupt you. I'm going to start now my conversation with Harinder Singh Sikka. Harinder Singh Sikka is an author, and let's quickly hear it from him. Mr. Sikka, now we've done this massive research which has spanned weeks and weeks together, and what we've been able to find out are these key players, certain key players who have their association with politicians, who have been supporting them, funding them over years together to make these organizations, these terror organizations that have been given the terror tag by India, in India, are continuously successfully operating without any stoppage, without any questions being asked. So how do we fix, who do we fix the accountability to, and how do we do that?
You see, it's as simple as what I'm going to explain to you. I've been a soldier in Navy, an officer, and I've seen, I've operated on occasions with Pakistan fleet on this when we entered into Karachi zone with Pakistani ships exercising. It's a known fact across globe and more so in Pakistan and now even in China that Sikhs are a dangerous force. They couldn't fear two hoots, Battle of Saragari is in everybody's mind, and this force is something which scares them no end. How do you weaken them? You weaken them by creating a fear, A, which is not happening. B, drug them, it is happening, lock, stock and barrel. By providing them free liquor, it's happening in Punjab. Urta Punjab is one such small example, by the way. And divide and rule. So steadfastly, this has happened. That divide them. How do you divide them is your business, and they are willing to fund it. When you go to Brampton, moment you start Brampton, all areas are Sikh dominated. And when a new guy comes there, new Sikh student comes there, they start funding him, helping him, they cultivate him. It's a full story going on down there. And good old days, Pakistan was funding left and right because Pakistanis knew very well that they cannot enter Punjab if Sikhs are on the war footing. Second thing, why is it necessary for Pakistan to create a huge divide? Only in Punjab. They are not much bothered about rest of the country. Because once that area from which all attacks have happened to India is broken, they feel that the rest of the country becomes easier to handle and they will be able to dominate. What are we lacking? We are lacking our integrity. We are lacking patriotism. We are lacking nationalism and solidarity. We are so easy to break. How were we broken? We have allowed ourselves to be broken into pieces. Ramgarhia Sikh, Nirankari Sikhs, Jat Sikhs, Bhapa Sikh. There are so many of them. But Guru Nanak never taught that. Guru Gobind Singh Ji, when he made those Sikhs, he said that Nanak Manas ki Jat sab hai ek hai pehchan ko. Where is scheduled caste, a scheduled tribe coming from? Who created them? Why was Bhuta Singh a scheduled caste? He was not supposed to be, but the moment you become scheduled caste, they give you so and so. Sikhs are also, in the end of the day, humans. Oh, we call ourselves Ramgarhias, we call our...
Yeah. I'm going to delve into that point, sir. Stay on with me. I'm quickly getting in Aarti back. Aarti, we are going to talk about the World Sikh Organization that poses as a welfare organization and spread Khalistani propaganda. How does it operate? How did it get founded? Who all are the persons operating it?
So I'm coming to exactly that. I had to give you a little background.
I'll come back to you, sir. Sir, let's cut away and see what this World Sikh Organization is. I'll come back to you to get your inference on it.
Through the web again. Here we're seeing World Sikh Organization placed here. It is formed after an international gathering of Sikhs that took place in 1984 at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Now the USA-based Didar Singh Bains, who played a key role in setting up WSO, raised the demand of Khalistan. Now, according to the allegations or the charges against them, the CBC documentary exposed gaining political influence even while publicly supporting terrorist acts in the struggle for an independent Sikh state is what the allegations against WSO is. The WSO has wings in different countries and in India as well, but they majorly operate in Canada. Now, when you talk about the president of the WSO, it is Tejinder Singh Sidhu, who of course currently serves as the president and is residing in Canada. Now, another interesting fact about the WSO is the fact that they also helped Justin Trudeau's campaign, who is now of course Prime Minister of Canada. The Liberal Party was helped before the polls by them. Now, if we talk about Tejinder Singh, He currently serves as the president of WSO. It is a pro-Khalistani organization. Now, after India took action against Khalistani social media accounts and websites, Tejinder Singh opposed this and claimed that it was censorship. Now, he also has categorically taken anti-India stances while supporting Khalistan sentiments under the guise of religion and community welfare. Now, cases were also registered against pro-Khalistani forces spreading violence against UAPA. Many have been sent notices by the NIA, and the WSO was one of them. Now, this is an image of Tejinder Singh's Twitter account. So, several of his tweets have been withheld in India. And several social media accounts as well. Previous social media account of Tejinder's has been withheld in India, and several of his pro-Khalistani tweets have been withheld as well. There are, of course, several pseudonyms under which these people have created accounts on social media again, Megha.
Okay, all right. I'm going to come back to my discussion over here, and particularly when we speak about this organization. And if you could shed more light into this, Sarah. We're talking about the World Sikh Organization. Have you been able to also make your notes, done your research, and how this organization operates?
I apologise. I have only really been looking into the Australian scenario, but I think you could talk to Jitharth about that, and he would know more about how they connect with the organisations here, because we have new organisations that are linked to these other organisations, but they're not explicitly linked. So
okay.
I would refer that to Jitharth. Please come.
Jitharth, take it from here about World Sikh Organization. It has been an organization that has been founded and has been in operation for decades together now. What more credible information do we have to build a strong, credible case against the organization?
Particularly 2 times of the members and secretary of this World Sikh Organization having a big meeting conducted in Sydney and Adelaide, in which they kind of organize all of supporters or sympathizers of Khalistan in Australia. They brought them under one table. They told them that there will be a construction of Sikhs for Justice here. They will be face of it. However, support has to be given. Then it was asked in that meeting that what support Australian Khalistan sympathizers need. And there were some monetary supports which were given to them, and the work was started in 2017 by World Sikh Organization. They started it in the name of Sikh history. They started it in the name of one organization which they have sued us before for giving their names, so I don't want to name right now, but there are 2 organizations which are working right now with these Khalistan supporters and organizing events and creating sympathizers in Australia. There is a whole lot of documents which have been provided to the security agencies, ACO in Australia. There are a number of documentation which have been provided to AFP in Australia. And I understand that Indian High Commission has also provided 2 dossiers which largely charts how the Canadian and the American systems are kind of influencing Australian Sikh organizations and creating their own Australian chapters to influence these people. Local people are gullible. There have been a number of Sikhs who came from India in 1980s. They are very strong, powerful, and successful people here now after almost 2 generations. This is the 3rd generation of those people, and they were the first one to be influenced. These the Khalistan supporters went to these peoples in regional Australia and asked that your parents came here in duress, stress situation. They tried to remind them of whatever situations were there in 1980s in India, and then they asked them to support them here in Australia to create the kind of atmosphere right now we are seeing, which is in some quarters called a conflict between Hindu and Sikhs. However, that's
but
not true.
it's also, you know, I
That
want
is
to
not
get into
true.
the details of this. Now, this World Sikh Organization, the head of World Sikh Organization is Tejinder Singh Sidhu. Now, the World Sikh Organization has helped Justin Trudeau's party, Liberal Party, to campaign before the federal polls. So, there has been funding that has been provided by World Sikh Organization. There is also inference that has been drawn in terms of the research that we have done, that CBC documentary. It has exposes a gaining political influence even whilst publicly supporting terrorist acts in the struggle for an independent Sikh state. And World Sikh Organization has continued to raise the demand for Khalistan. Now, if such an organization is talking about a secessionist state, talking about division of India, talking about disintegration of India, and in the same breath going about supporting Justin Trudeau's political party for it to become the government of the day by winning the election, is this not tantamount to contempt against a country, contempt against India, and also aligning with the enemy? And that poses the same question as to, isn't the government of Canada then hand in glove with the Khalistanis in propagating and promoting these kind of activities?
See, Megha, the people you are calling Khalistanis, the people you are calling are enemies of India or Indians or Indian state, are not enemies of Canada. That's what they understand. That's what they are saying. The same problem is in Australia, that the Khalistani goons who are creating havoc here on the streets of Melbourne or Sydney or Adelaide or Perth are not perceived as enemy of Australia. If they are enemy of India, that's not my problem.
Correct. But then, so
it's
tomorrow, if Quebec were to come out and say that we want to disintegrate from Canada, and there are Canadians whom we give you refuge to, people from Quebec, and they are protesting and they want a separate state of Quebec, they want to disintegrate from Canada, would objection not be raised by the Canadian government, by Canada against India? And why are safe havens being given to those who are hypothetically wanting a separate state of Quebec? I think something similar taking place in United Kingdom. When you take a look at Ireland, we take a look at Scotland, there are people, activists, politicians who are grudgingly continuing to be part of United Kingdom. They don't want to do so. They want to unite with Ireland. They want to have unification. They would rather be separate from United Kingdom. And if they were to protest, they were to raise slogans, they were to build about referendums in our land, in our territory, would United Kingdom look at us and say and do nothing about it, or would it raise protests and ask the government of India to take action?
Megha, they understand the situation. 30 years back, there was a bomb blast in a plane in Canada. The pilot of that plane, his son had to move away from, he's a Sikh, he has to move away from Canada to Australia. And today, I have had a talk a few days back with him, and he told me, look, what am I facing today? If I go to the Gurdwara, which is nearest to my home, I see the same terrorist posters on the walls of the Gurdwara, which gives me terrorizing memories of killing my father as the pilot of that Kanisha plane. He left that place, Canada. He came to Australia 25 years back just to brush away those memories, because the way Canada was behaving, the way Khalistan supporters were behaving in Canada. He came to Australia. Now these Canadians people have bought every memory back in Australia on the streets here, and nobody is understanding or trying to understand that Sikhs are the people who are suffering because of these Khalistani goons.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me get in Major Madan Kumar also on the telecast with me. Major Madan Kumar is a geopolitical expert. And Major Madan Kumar, how do you see these developments taking place, particularly the Khalistani issue again coming to the forefront with the attacks that are taking place at the High Commission in America, in UK. There have been attacks that have been taking place in Australia recently. There have been some crackdown that has been done by the politicians, by the government, but not enough perhaps. More needs to be done. And what is this more that needs to be done?
Yeah, thank you everyone, and our co-panelist has covered the issue excellently from various locations and from Canada and from Australia. The thing is, as Jay said, this is a problem of India. It's essentially not a problem of Canada, Australia or UK. What we see them, we have this OPA Act amended, we have done a major change of naming people as individual terrorists. Earlier, it used to be the organization which was made a terrorist. An individual cannot be declared as a terrorist. Now, a lot of these Khalistani elements have been declared as independent terrorists, even though they are not part of this 12 major Sikh Khalistani organizations which they put. The problem which is happening in India is that the rest of the country who don't understand the gravity of this issue tend to see this as a Sikh protest, which is not the case. The Sikhs are the most patriotic, most nationalistic people of India. They have fought wars, I can keep on counting, so we don't have to even have an iota of doubt about their patriotism and stuff. But the deliberate attempt is to portray Sikhs as some anti-national elements, which, the social media frenzy, sometimes it tends to take the, thing away, the issue away and look at the emotions there. So that's where we are going wrong internally. We need to make the people aware. There should be enough discussions on TV debates. Like people in South, where I come from, hardly have any knowledge about this. For them, okay, it's some religion which is getting into extremism and possibly terrorism, which is not the case. Serious attempts have been made to show a Sikh mutiny in Indian Army, which never was highlighted in the mainstream media. Especially when this Agnipath scheme was introduced by our government for the security forces, the change in the HR policy. It was portrayed, it was campaigned, the propaganda was told that, Indian Army doesn't want Sikh soldiers in, so they have bought in this scheme. And certain nasty, stupid statistics were shared. It was all across the social media, WhatsApp, Telegram, and so on. So it's high time the INB ministry has some measure to control this propaganda inside the country. Now, when you come outside the country, we have a diplomatic relation with Canada. We have a very good relation with UK, and we in Australia, we are part of the same organization called Quad. We have a large number of bilateral relations until or unless the Indian government puts this in the top of the table, like the way we did with China. Trade, ties, culture, everything takes a backseat. The border issue, the border management, the peace at the border takes a front seat.
Okay.
Similarly, with relations with Australia, with relations with UK and Canada, this has to be put forth. Otherwise, these countries are not going to understand the gravity of what pain it is going to cause to us and to them as well. Like the classic example of the Kanishka bombing. The majority of the people who died were Canadians. The second majority of people who died were from UK. The flight fell off in Ireland, and the second bombing attempt was made in Japan. 5 countries were involved. 180 million Canadian dollar was spent on the inquiry of that. And finally, with whatever fancy justice system which Canada has, we have seen them, the culprit, the person who's the core responsible for this particular bomb blast was released after certain years in prison. This will not happen in any part of the world. However liberal society or however matured as a democracy you can call yourself.
Okay. So these actions need to be, how feasible are these actions going to be in terms of cutting ties when it comes to economic transactions taking place from one country to the other, whether it is Australia, UK, well, that's also debatable. But I'm going to quickly bring into focus another of these Khalistani offshoots. It's the Poetic Justice Foundation and its co-founder Mo Dhaliwal. And how deep do these linkages run with the Khalistani movement? Let's take a look and get Aarti back onto the telecast with us.
Right, Megha, let's take our viewers through now. Initially, I had explained the Poetic Justice Foundation, how it was linked to the Dal Khalsa and several other Khalistanis. Now, what exactly is the Poetic Justice Foundation? Now, it was founded by Mo Dhaliwal and Anita Lal in March 2020. In September of 2020, the co-founder Mo Dhaliwal on his social media accounts declared himself as pro-Khalistani. Now, if you talk about the terror CV or the allegations against it, PFJ had created a toolkit which was shared by Greta Thunberg on her Twitter account on the January of 2021. Now, PFJ had created this particular toolkit which was shared by Greta. And the Delhi police had stated that the toolkit outlines plans that resembled violence that unfolded on the 26th January 2021 in New Delhi. And there were also several links. Now, if you take a look at this, is a screen grab from the actual PDF which was called the toolkit. You see several links attached and hyperlinks. They supposedly led to pages that linked with Khalistan ideals and that were trying to brainwash people into believing into Khalistan. Now, if you talk a little bit more about this particular aspect of it, Peter Frederick's name comes in. Now, he came under the Delhi police radar in the toolkit controversy. He allegedly authored the toolkit and his name has been mentioned under notable people to follow. Now, here you see Peter at a Khalistani protest. You also see Peter at seminars where he's spoken against Mahatma Gandhi and Bhagat Singh as well. The Delhi police say that Peter Frederick has been on Indian agencies' radar since 2006 under the suspicion of having ISI links, and he is of course linked to the Poetic Justice Foundation through this. Now, if we talk about Mo Dhaliwal on the other hand, he is the co-founder of Poetic Justice Foundation, and on his Facebook page in 2020, he said that I'm a Khalistani, you might not know this about me because Khalistan is an idea, it's a living, breathing movement, he said in his post. Now, he urged, of course, Rihanna to tweet about this is his tweet where he tags Rihanna and he tweets about the farmers' protest. And this is of course Greta Thunberg sharing the toolkit that we had just spoken about. Now, these are images that Mo Dhaliwal has shared on his social media pages with of course Khalistani leader as well, like we had spoken about earlier, Jagmeet Singh Dhaliwal. Now, this is Canada's NDP member and he's posted several images with him. Now, according to media reports, Skyrocket, which is a PR firm which Mo Dhaliwal runs, has paid $2.5 million to pop star Rihanna to tweet in favor of the farmers' protest. This, of course, according to several media reports that had come out regarding this.
Okay, all right. So this is a sinister web, and that's exactly what I was talking about. Farmer protest, it wasn't a sporadic protest that had taken place with masses getting involved. It was in fact a well thought out plot, and inclusion of these international stars, activists, Greta Thunberg, the likes of Rihanna, and there's so many others who were getting in, embroiled into this entire politics of it. There was in fact even the Canadian Prime Minister, who was Justin Trudeau. He himself came about tweeting saying that we are concerned, so on and so forth. But what we get to know from this well-researched chain is that it was in fact Mo Dhaliwal, it was the Poetic Justice Foundation, all the offshoots of Khalistani movements taking place running across the length and breadth of the world, particularly in Canada and in United Kingdom. They are the ones who've been funding these people. They have the amount of money, they have the amount of cash to then spare for these secessionists, these anti-India activities that have been taking place. I'm going to quickly get in Harinder Sikka back on the telecast with me. Now, Harinder ji, you've particularly talking about the farmer protest, and while the farmer protest forced the government of India to repeal the laws that would have been in favor of the farmers, of the agriculturalists in our country, there was a well thought out plot by these Khalistanis to inject themselves in this organic movement that had started in India and spread it across the globe like wildfire.
Let me again take you slightly back. It is important how Khalistani became such a movement. We are missing the main point. In 1984, when Operation Blue Star and followed by the carnage, not called riots, took place in Delhi and India, some 5 to 7 to 10,000, God knows how many innocent Sikhs are killed. A mass movement took place from India to focus on Canada, and that is where it started. And it has never ended thereafter because those wounds are not easy to heal. So this is where World Sikh Organization and various organizations put together, happened. Who did it? Congress. Now, it's a political animal, this Congress, or any other radical political party. Where has Rahul Gandhi recently gone to US and met whom? Traitors, terrorists, and moved around with them. For them, power is important. Country can go to hell for that matter. These are hard facts. So why blame Canada? Why blame UK? Why blame Australia and any other country? The problem lies at home first. You mean to say 12,600 villages in Punjab, all of them drugged, all of them have lost, all villages have lost up to 25 youth in every village, multiplied by, and you will find how many thousands have died because of drugs. So Mo Bhatia or Mo Dhaliwal is not the only one who's funding it, and with is betting some amount of 2.5 or 10 million dollars. Millions were needed, are needed. Where is it coming from? It's coming from India. The problem lies in India. Now, if you find one drone in this vicinity of Punjab caught, at least 10, 20 are getting away. What are we doing about it? It's a known fact that AAP was funded by Khalistanis. What have we done about it? We have to not only be serious, we have to be seen to be serious. You kill the problem here first. Not put a bomb here and say that cancer will go. Cancer has to be operated upon. And we are not operating upon that cancer, and we're talking haywire about this geopolitics and so on and so forth. It's very simple. You had one number guy coming from Dubai and calling himself a Khalistani. You sorted him out with all focus. Hats off to the government which did that. But have we gone back to those people who nurtured it? Who are those leaders behind it? Point number 2. What does it take to take it so seriously with Tudor government or Australia or UK that this we will not tolerate? I can guarantee you that 99% of these Sikhs are not Khalistanis. How much I have interacted.
They're saying this Khalistani movement is not emanating out of India to begin with. The Khalistani movement has gotten its roots and the funding. It started off with Canada. And what percentage of the Sikhs are living in Canada to begin with, or in UK, or in Australia?
That's correct. That's correct. So all those students who go there, just visit those places, Brampton. Short of Brampton, as you leave the airport, between Brampton and the airport, there is a huge colony with one bedroom sets, all owned by them, the Khalistani leaders. Very, very petty amount they pay for that. All newcomers are housed there. They're funded there. They're motivated to be. How can all gurudwaras carry the photographs of terrorists? You're supposed to see Guru Nanak Sahib there, Guru Gobind Singh Ji there. No, there will be one odd photograph, but all terrorists. The government must engage with these countries that look, if your house is being burgled and I'm quiet, wait for your turn. They have to take it that seriously.
Right.
And each time these have been taken seriously, these have been addressed.
Okay.
Now government has taken a very wonderful stand in UK, cancelling the passports of Khalistanis. They have identified them, they have cancelled them. So show the same seriousness in any part of the world and let's see what happens. Point number 2, I have said it earlier. A large number of Pakistanis today who speak better Punjabi than you and me are wearing turbans, are wearing beards and acting as Khalistanis. They want Sikhs to be divided because they cannot come to India and fight Sikhs. And tell you what, Sikhs are not falling for this trap in India. A handful one swallow does not the spring make. It is not possible that a handful of Sikhs sitting outside will convert India. But we still have a problem.
Yeah, on that note, sir, on that note, I'm going to also bring to my audience's notice the sinister ISI link that the Khalistani movement has. And let's quickly take a look at that, Aarti.
Look now at, earlier we in fact spoke about Guru Charan Singh and his relation to ISI and the Pakistani diplomats he'd met. Now let's talk about Peter Frederick, right? And earlier of course we just spoken about him in the context of the farmers' protest. Now Peter Frederick first came under the Delhi police radar for ISI links in 2006. And according to the investigation and the charges against him, he is being investigated as the main conspirator in the toolkit case that was of course which had incriminating evidence of pro-Khalistani content which was embedded in it. Now, he has been found to have links with an alleged Khalistani ISI operative, Bhajan Singh Binder, who is also known as Iqbal Chaudhry. Now, Bhajan Singh was on Pakistan ISI's payroll as Iqbal Chaudhry. And over the course of his career per se, Peter Frederick wrote 7 books and 3 of which have been co-authored by Khalistani ISI operative Bhajan Singh. Now, before he teamed up with Binder, Peter in fact was a Christian missionary. Now, in several Facebook posts of Peter as well, he claims, or tweets of Peter as well, he claims to not be a Christian missionary or be any sort of an extremist, but he was in fact in his early activism life was a pro-life Christian activist. Now, these are of course from a website of Peter Frederick, where he talks about how he is involved in pro-life activism and before he teamed up with Binder, he was in fact believing in Christianity, and he was a Christian missionary. These are YouTube channels that have been created by Peter, and he goes by the name in these channels as Peter Singh. Now, this of course was a persona created by him to better embed himself in the Khalistan movement. Now, these channels also contain videos of Binder as well, and they've been created in 2013. Now, according to reports, of course, what we're learning is that Peter was struggling financially at the time of meeting Binder, and in 2006, and he'd been groomed as an asset, as a pro-Khalistan asset by Binder. And Khalistani funding then allows for the creation of publishing companies which publishes all of Frederick's books. And reports also say that earlier Peter was heavily financially dependent at the time when employment was offered to him by Bhajan Singh Binder.
Okay. All right, so there you have it, the ISI link, how there has been foreign hands, Peter Frederick, his entire persona that was embedded into the Khalistani movement, and how it was very cleverly camouflaged to get the sympathies of the Sikh community. I'm going to pose this question to Major Madan Kumar, quickly coming to you now. Now, when there is already evidence to the fact to collaborate that yes, there is the Pakistani ISI linkage that also funds the Khalistani movement. We've spoken at length about the Bangladesh liberation, which was at one point of time East Pakistan, with efforts of India and then USSR. Russia was when the liberation to Bangladesh was given. There was a pent-up anger of the Pakistanis against the Indians. So while they were using this minority tool of Muslim minorities and quote-unquote atrocities against them and so on and so forth, they were also on the other end playing another minority card, the Sikh minority card, and they were talking about how there needs to be a secessionist separate Sikh state that needs to be created within India. Now with so much information, so much of investigation that has been done, there have been time and again questions being raised. Why has there not been something credible being done to ensure that these organizations stop their work, stop their funding in all these other parts of the country, and there are all other parts of the world, and also the fact that they are at this time damaging the very fabric of India by way of influencing or brainwashing youth in our country?
Problem here is the western part of the world doesn't understand the seriousness of this particular terrorism. Like Charlie Hebdo, when this cartoon came in and when he was brutally killed, the amount of agitation, the amount of the sentiments, which was like the Western media was screaming for quite almost a month's time. It was a very sad incident. But if you put the same yardstick out in what happens in Asia, especially in countries like India, they do not put the same yardstick. It is all okay, this happens and there is a freedom movement, there is democracy. Like when you spoke about Mo Daliwal, it was an excellent research was done by your team, thanks to them. But to add on to that, he was the campaign chief of Jagmeet Singh, the Canadian politician, the Democratic Party. Right, the links are very, very clear. And he was the one who coined that very famous campaign. And then later, when this Embassy High Commission of India was attacked in London, these are the very same people who went and attended celebration, routine party celebration in Pakistan High Commission. All of them were in the single frame. So this has been happening for quite some time. In 2010, when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was in power as a Prime Minister, these are the same people who had this alliance of Hurriyat, Khalistan and NSCN,
right,
the Nagaland. So all these three guys formed a team and then they went and pressurized the government that, and the biggest stupidity, like Harjinder sir said, is that these people, the government of the day in 2010, went and engaged with these people. You are legitimizing these people. That's a most, Himalayan blunder you can do. You should not be legitimizing these people. Hurriyat, you have legitimized them. You proudly call them separatists, provide all the assistance, visas wherever they want to go. And then you have NSCN. So there is an unholy alliance of every country has a fault line. Every country has a fault line. But this fault line is very, very close to the Pakistan border. Why we have come, as Harjinder sir said, a generation of youth has been destroyed just by not using a weapon. It's by drugs. So why is that all these drones drop the drugs only in Punjab? Why not in Rajasthan and Gujarat? Because there is a fault line which exists and a lot of domestic politics. Dal Khalsa, thanks to then Sanjay Gandhi, who nurtured and who developed this entire organization, we are still now paying the price. This mixing of national security issue with local politics is a main issue, which these regional parties, even the national party like Congress, which have been doing it for quite some time now.
Okay. And
as far as the external this thing is concerned, the international policies of looking at it.
Yes, I think you make important points over there, and I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast. I'm sorry I'm completely out of time, but we are going to take forward our campaign. The Firangistan files, this is the first step that we have taken in exposing the Khalistani movement across the globe in several parts of the world, and these people and organizations, our next step is going to be then reaching out to the Ministry of External Affairs, reaching out to the Ministry of Home Affairs, the National Investigative Agency, to reach out to the ambassadors, to diplomats that represent these countries in India and ask them these questions, give them the evidences, and then point blank ask these questions to them as what is it that their governments, their respective governments are doing to bring a crackdown on the Khalistani separatist secessionist movement, which is detrimental to the cause and the sovereignty of our country.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.